What does it really cost to buy a home in San Antonio with a VA loan in 2026? Here's the honest answer. Most qualified veterans bring far less cash to closing than they think, and a lot of them bring almost nothing at all. I am Christopher Beal, an Army veteran and realtor here in San Antonio, and at Veteran Real Estate San Antonio, I walk military buyers through these exact numbers every single week. In the next few minutes, I am going to break down the 4 things that actually decide your out-of-pocket cost. The zero down question, the VA funding fee, your closing cost here in Bexar County, and what the seller is allowed to pay for you. Then I will put it all together on a real $350,000 example so you can see the cash to close with your own eyes. Yes, for a veteran with full entitlement, a VA loan in San Antonio is genuinely $0 down, and there is no VA loan limit on the price. That has been the rule since January of 2020, when the Blue Water Navy Veterans Act removed the old county caps for buyers with full entitlement. So a sergeant stationed at Fort Sam Houston and a retiree buying out in Stone Oak both have the same advantage. You can finance the full purchase price as long as the lender approves your income, your credit, and the home appraises. Now, zero down is not the same as zero cash. There's a difference between your down payment and the money it takes to get to the closing table. The down payment is the chunk of the price you are not financing. And on a full entitlement via loan, that can truly be nothing. But closing costs, your funding fee, and a couple of small Texas-specific fees still exist. The good news is that most of those can be paid by the seller or rolled into the loan. And that is exactly what we structure on offers around Randolph, Schertz, and Cibolo. So hold the zero down fact in your head because it is real. And then let me show you the pieces that still cost money. The VA funding fee in 2026 is 2.15% of the loan amount for most first-time VA buyers putting zero down. If this is not your first VA loan, the subsequent use fee goes up to 3.3% with nothing down. Put even 5% down and that fee drops to 1.5%. And at 10% down, it falls to 1.25%. On a $350,000 home with zero down and first-time use, that funding fee is about $7,525. Here's the part that catches people off guard. You usually do not write a check for that. The funding fee is almost always rolled into the loan, so it is financed, not paid in cash at the table. And here is the piece nobody tells veterans often enough. If you receive VA disability compensation at any rating of 10% or higher, your funding fee is waived completely. Purple Heart recipients on active duty and many surviving spouses are exempt too. I sit down with buyers at Lackland and Camp Bullis who had no idea they qualified for that exemption. And on a loan this size, that one fact can save them over $7,000. Always confirm your exemption status on your certificate of eligibility before you assume you owe it. Beyond the funding fee, VA buyers in Bexar County typically see closing costs that run somewhere between 2 and 5% of the loan amount. On a $350,000 loan, that is roughly $7,000 to $17,500, depending on your lender and the title company. What is inside that number? Your loan origination charge, which is often right around 1%. Then the title policy, the appraisal, recording fees, and your prepaid items, which means setting up your property tax and homeowner's insurance escrow account. Texas has its own 2 small line items that surprise out-of-state buyers. The first is the option fee, usually $200 to $500, that buys you a termination option period of about 7 to 10 days to inspect the home and walk away if you need to. The second is earnest money, commonly around 1% of the price, which here in San Antonio is often $1,000 to $3,000. And here is the key point most people miss. Your earnest money is not an extra fee. It is a deposit held by the title company that gets credited right back toward your closing costs at the table. So when you hear those percentages, remember a big share of it can be shifted off your plate entirely, which is exactly what we negotiate next. Yes, and this is the single biggest lever for a VA buyer. On a VA loan, the seller is allowed to pay all of your normal closing costs with no cap at all. On top of that, the seller can pay what the VA calls concessions, things like prepaid taxes and insurance, or paying your funding fee up to 4% of the home value. So your standard closing costs are uncapped and the extras are capped at 4%. On a $350,000 home, 4% of concessions is $14,000, and that is on top of the regular closing costs the seller can already cover. Now here's the honest part, because I represent buyers in real negotiations every week. Whether a seller actually agrees to pay depends on the market and on how we write the offer. In a slower stretch with a home that has been sitting near Schertz or out by Alamo Ranch, asking the seller to cover your costs is very realistic. In a multiple offer situation, it is harder, and we may build that help into the price instead. This is where having a realtor who is also an Army veteran and negotiates VA offers constantly actually changes your bottom line. The rule lets the seller pay. The strategy is getting them to. So let us put it all together on a $350,000 San Antonio home with full entitlement and first-time use. $0 for the down payment. The funding fee of about $7,500 is rolled into the loan, or waived entirely if you have a disability rating. Closing costs of roughly $7,000 to $17,000 can be paid by the seller when we negotiate it that way. That leaves the two small Texas items, your option fee of a few $100s and your earnest money. And remember, the earnest money comes right back to you as a credit at closing. So in the best structured scenario, a veteran can walk into a $350,000 home for just a few $100s truly out of pocket. In a tougher market, maybe you bring a few thousand. Either way, it is a fraction of the 20% that conventional buyers stress about. Let me recap the four levers. 0 down is real with full entitlement. The funding fee is 2.15% and often waived. Closing costs run 2 to 5%, and the seller can legally pay all of your closing costs plus 4% in concessions. If you want your exact numbers run on a specific home, reach out and I will map it line by line. No pressure, just clarity. I am Christopher Beal with Veteran Real Estate San Antonio. Call or text 210-882-8583 or find me at veteranrealestatesa.com. I will see you in the next one.